Good day. Warhammer 40,000 is a franchise that is steadily growing. Now, it started out as a tabletop war game that actually got so popular that it actually was able to get some spin-off novels for it. Then a few video games were created, but none were actually all that popular and none were actually all that successful. That wasn't until Dawn of War. This is by far the most well-known Warhammer 40k game, and was really many fans' gateway into the series. Now, I personally started liking Warhammer 40k with that absolutely crappy Fire Warrior game, but that is neither here nor there. Now, this is an RTS, and it's a fairly standard one at that. You basically just build your base, level up your base, get some units, level up your units, and attack. Now, you have access to several races. You have the Space Marines, which are genetically engineered super soldiers that are loyal to the Imperium of Man, an organization that is pretty much a combination of all the worst totalitarian governments human history has to offer. The Space Marine faction is as generic as one would expect from the name. Essentially, everything makes sense when it comes to their faction, and they're easy to figure out, making them a very good starter race to play as. Now, every faction in the game is somewhat different from one another. However, there are a few things that are held in common. For example, every single faction can create plasma generators and thermoplasma generators. This game does not actually have resource gathering. Rather, you have to capture control points and then build listening posts on them. These give you Requisition, which then you use to buy weapons and units. This means you cannot just turtle up. You must constantly be on the offensive trying to capture more points and get more Requisition so you can research and buy more powerful units. Now, in addition to the boring old Space Marines, you of course have several other factions you must fight against. You have the Orks, which seem to always be very common in these Warhammer 40k games. They essentially focus on large numbers of infantry. You then have the Eldar, which focus on small numbers of powerful units. You then have the Chaos Forces, otherwise known as the Chaos Scum. Essentially, they're more or less like the Space Marines, but feature a few unique units. The game does have a fairly decent and fairly well thought out campaign, even though when you get right down to it, it's just basic Warhammer 40k fare. But if you've never read a Warhammer 40k book before, this is a fairly good introduction as to what usually happens in them.
In attack formation. Charge! Charge!
Ready to deploy.
Under fire! Orders received. Charge!
In the end, do I recommend Warhammer 40k Dawn of War? I certainly do. If you're not a fan of the RTS genre, this might actually be a good gateway game, as it doesn't require you to manage 15 separate resources to build one infantryman. And so, this is John, saying, I'll see you later in Winter Assault.